Welcome and thank you for joining me once again for another GIS review. For the Department of Information and Public Relations and the Ministry of Education and Culture, I am your host, Information Officer Colleen Penn. With strong leadership, committed staff, unwavering support from parents and guardians, and the drive of students, the Elmore Stoutt High School is poised to deliver excellence. Today, we will conclude our feature with the acting principal of the Elmore Stoutt High School, Mrs. Sandy Underhill, to learn of the plans for the institution for this school year. Mrs. Underhill, welcome back, and thank you for joining me once again on this GIS report.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Now, the last time you were here, we spoke to your new role as acting principal of the Elmore Stoutt High School. We spoke about the challenges that you've faced since you've been there, and we've also spoke to some of the solutions that you've devised to help address those challenges. Now, there are lots of highlights at the Elmore Stoutt High School. There are lots of positive change and things that I know you're very much proud of. For this interview, let's speak about those. New initiatives. What things have you put in place moving forward at the school?
Well, we talked about one of the things that have made a tremendous difference in our last interview. We talked about the just simple things that didn't require a lot of resources, like campus monitoring and lunch program monitoring. One of the things that I didn't realize happened before my taking over this position, it was about 1 o'clock one day, lunch was over, and we were leaving the lunch tent, and the vendors were clapping. And I couldn't understand. I thought something had happened. And I turned around and I'm asking, why are you guys clapping? And they're telling me, wow, the lunch tent is clean. In my mind, the lunch tent was not clean. It was not as clean as I would have preferred it to be. But I turned around and I went back and I spoke to one of the vendors. And I asked them to explain to me, why they were clapping. And she said, Miss Underhill, before you came, this place used to be filthy. There were cups and crates and the children were not using the trash cans. And so I wasn't really aware of that. And what they explained to me was by having the adult presence monitoring the program, it makes a difference because now children are now using the trash cans because they know they're being watched. They know they're being supervised. And that alone in itself has changed the atmosphere. I see also that children, especially our lower school, 7th graders, they look less apprehensive. Sitting there feeling a little bit more comfortable, knowing that their principal is there, knowing that teachers are there, they're mingling, they're talking, they're laughing, and it's a whole different atmosphere. I mean, these things may seem simple, but safety and welfare should be the #1 priority at any learning institution, especially one of this size, the magnitude and size of Elmore Stoutt High School. And so just putting something like that in place with the collaboration of my teachers, the excellent job that they have done, just stepping up to the plate and embracing that change has created a very positive atmosphere thus far. We still have so much work to do because now it's a mindset that we're trying to change, a mindset amongst the children and their behavior and among adults as well. So that is going to take time. But again, it begins, in my mind, with leadership by example. And so that's what I am there to do. So something as simple as that has changed the way children are feeling. They're a little bit more comfortable having lunch and not feeling as apprehensive that, my gosh, I wonder what's going to happen today.
How does that transfer into the classroom?
As far as into the classroom, we used to have a lot of loitering. We still do. Children just finding any excuse to walk out of class, and that is still an issue. So I'm not going to sugarcoat that. That's still a serious issue. However, that has decreased, the amount of loitering, again, because students know that when they come out of the classroom, someone is going to be there. Someone is going to greet you and ask you, why are you out of class, and make sure that you go back in a timely manner. As far as in the classroom, we still have issues. We still have a long way to go. Remember, we've only been here 8 weeks. but there have been positive changes in just the way students are and just the overall respect for authority. Again, we have a long way to go, but students are responding. They're responding to authority. And one of the things that I found, you asked me in my last interview that I didn't mention as a challenge, was just the respect for any adult authority. The students respect me. And one of the things I always say to them, if you respect me, you're going to respect my staff. Because when you disrespect them, you're disrespecting me. And that's something I keep as my motto every day, as a message, and I find that it is working. I will go down to the security when they're having issues. They would call me and say, Miss Underhill, this student is being disrespectful. And I go down there and I stand right up there and give them full authority to do what they have to do. And just by doing that, students recognize that, look, this is a collaborative effort. Miss Underhill is not going to say one negative thing against her staff. She's going to support them. She's there. And so we now have to fall in line if we want to be a part of what's happening at this institution. So, you know, little things still have a long way to go, but we're starting subtly and we're seeing some positive improvements as far as transformation.
One thing you mentioned the last time we spoke was about the expectations and having clear expectations for students. Now that students are better, I don't know how clear it is for them now, but now they understand that a certain type of behavior is expected of them, a certain type of performance is expected of them. How do you see them having those clear expectations laid out, having them improve on their academic standing?
Yeah, that's a good question because, and when you asked me in my last interview about challenges, you note that I talked a lot about discipline, because one of the things we try to communicate just in every opportunity we have to communicate with students, especially in our general assemblies, we try to explain to them that it would be impossible for you to have academic success without discipline. And a lot of them we find don't understand what that means. They don't understand that you have to have calm and you have to have order for the whole the whole academic to take place. And so begs the question, why are you so focused on discipline? Well, you have to be focused on discipline because you need an environment that is orderly, that is structured for academic progress to happen. And so students are slowly understanding. What I do a lot of times in my capacity is I find myself being a counselor most of the time. Students would come to me and I try to get them to solve their own problems, to think about their behavior, try to assess what you've done. How could you have done it differently? How does fighting help you? How does it affect you? And have them to, instead of me answering the question, have them to answer the question. And I find that that helps a lot when they have to think and come up with an answer of, how could I have done this differently? I think they're slowly beginning to understand that you must have discipline. You must have order and structure for you to have academic success. Another thing we are constantly explaining to them that while you may not agree with all the rules, you have to remember that this is a learning institution. We're not just teaching you academics. It's about preparing you for the future. Every opportunity that presents itself is an opportunity to teach a child about how to be successful in their daily lives as an adult, how to be a productive citizen. Every opportunity. So yes, you may not agree that you need to have a crest on your shirt or that you need to take off the shades or you must have a certain color socks, but it's not about those specifics. It's about the discipline that it requires to follow the rules. The same type of discipline that is required when you get a job. Now you have a family to feed and you can't tell the boss, well, I'm not doing it. Automatically you know that you have to do it because your next paycheck and your meal providing for your family depends on you getting that paycheck. So we would be doing a great disservice to our students if we were not trying to enforce rules and discipline, because we are preparing you for tomorrow. This is what the real world is about. When you go to work, you're expected to follow rules.
They go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. For you to be successful, for you to keep that job, for you to be an academic success, you must have discipline and order, structure.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, we spoke to some initiatives before. I don't know if you were able to cover all the initiatives you had in mind. Is there anything else you wish to add as relates to initiatives, positive things that are happening?
We are focusing immensely on changing the public's perception. That's the number one thing. One of the things we are working on right now in alignment with the PTA, the newly established PTA, is campus beautification. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Campus beautification, changing the physical look of the Elmore Stoutt High School, because I believe that psychologically, in my heart, that will play a vital role in the way students and staff behave. Taking pride in our surroundings, the environment. I believe that if we were to take a little bit more pride, that we will see a difference without even probably being able to communicate why we're feeling differently. Some of us will and some of us won't. It's a more of a psychological effect. I believe that that is something that has to be a priority. So that's one of the things that I shared with my newly established PTA president in terms of the direction I would like to see the school take. The campus beautification, putting up some signs, some planting of flowers. Again, where we would need the public support, not necessarily to give the school money, but to provide us with some services, planting some flowers, giving us some signs here and there to just change the look and the climate of the institution. Also changing the public's perception. This interview being a start, wanting to be not just me, but my administration, the entire school staff. I want to, we're embarking on a massive project to constantly be in the public's eye. And I believe that's important because while the media has to do their job, and they will do their job to highlight the negatives, it becomes our job to highlight the positives. It is our job, it is our responsibility. And so as a newly established acting principal, that is another priority of mine, to be in the media, in a positive way, to highlight the positive aspects of the school. We have so many great things going on at Elmore Stoutt High School. At the end of the day, and you know I'm very passionate, so if you don't mind, just to let me finish.
Go ahead.
No matter what secondary schools we have out there, we still, and I know that this is debatable, but I wouldn't be the acting principal if I didn't say this and I didn't feel this way. We're still producing the best students. We still have the best programs. We are still producing the most rounded student in the territory, meaning that our academic programs are second to none. We have an outstanding music program, introducing students to various genres of music. Still number one in the territory, and we can argue in some parts of the world, I am sure. We have a debating society. We have theater arts program that is doing extremely well. We are now in the process of trying to create and establish our own radio station called Elmore Stoutt High, ZESH Radio. That's something that you're going to be hearing about pretty soon, where we're utilizing the skills of our students to run that station, which is going to be supervised by adults, of course, adult teachers. So many things going on in that institution. We have over 20-something clubs and extracurricular activities up and running at this time. So many things. So while, yes, you know, the fighting and the aggression is on an unusual rise, and we're trying very hard to keep that, you know, to bring that down. There's so many positive things, and so it becomes the job of the administration and staff to make sure that the public is aware of the positive things going on at Elmore Stoutt High School. It is still the best secondary institution, and anybody who wants to come and argue with me better have a strong argument about why you think this is not the best secondary institution.
Well, well. And let me just add, I must extend congratulations to your institution as well, because within the region, for the Caribbean Examinations Council,
yes,
the CXC,
yes,
regionally, the Virgin Islands had placement in the top 10.
Yes, we had about 3 students who tied 1 one or two of them tied for first place. We have one that came first outright, I think, Michaela Muduru for electronics was number one in the entire region. Again, I'm saying it with passion and goosebumps because we are still the number one secondary institution in this territory. And so it is so important that we not give up on Elmore Stoutt High School. We have issues, we have challenges, but together we can solve them.
Yes, yes, and Michaela Maduro and the other two students are from the same debate that you spoke about. Yes. And all are the territory's top 3 students all came
from the Elmore Stoutt High School. I mean, isn't that amazing? So much good things to talk about, and sometimes we tend to linger on the negative things. And I understand, and the media has a job to do, but now the media will compete with Mrs. Underhill, because now Mrs. Underhill has taken up the task of making sure that every time there is a tit, I have a tat.
Miss Underhill had me laughing in the middle of the interview. Well, so, all right, Miss Underhill, as we're moving on, you've been called the Iron Lady. I've heard them refer to you as the Iron Lady.
What a big name, and if you know about the politics of Dominica, which is where my mother is from, and I tend to think I'm from too sometimes. Prime Minister Eugenia Charles was called the Iron Lady, and she was an excellent leader. And so that is some heavy shoes to fill. You know, again, it presents a challenge. Someone asked me the other day, how do you feel to be called the Iron Lady? I feel honored. However, there's a bit of a fear because I have to live up to that name. But like we spoke before we had the official starting of the interview, and you asked me, and I said to you, you know, you can't let fear drive your life because you won't get anything done. And it's true, you won't get anything done. So it's some big shoes to fill, but I trust in the Almighty that I am here for a reason, and that everything that has happened to me in my life was to prepare me to be the Iron Lady with His strength and His support. The support of the Almighty, I believe that I can live up to that role.
All right, darling. Support, parent support, community support. What do you have to say about those?
First, I want to talk about parents, and I'm going to have to ask forgiveness before I begin, because, I mean, we have some wonderful parents. We have parents who come in and sit with us to help us monitor the lunch, and that helps tremendously. But I'd like to see more of that. Parents play a vital role in the success of their children, and I don't think that we realize that. Studies show that students have more academic success when their parents are involved. And we can look that up. Parents' involvement in student lives makes a big difference. Just simple things like getting to know your child's teachers. Know who they are. Call them. When you have a concern, talk to them. Come in and visit the class. We want Elmore Stoutt High School to have an open door policy. Come in. You don't have to disturb the class. You can just come in, sit down for 5 minutes, see what's happening. Volunteer. There's so many things you can volunteer with, clubs and extracurricular activities. Again, helping us to monitor the lunch program. Just come in and sit with your child while they're having lunch. Be a chaperone. Field trips, help us with different activities, fair day, sports. So many ways that parents can just be a physical presence in their child's lives. But most importantly, we want to make an appeal for parents to really stay connected on a personal basis with their children at home. I don't profess to know everything there is about parenting. That's not what I am here to do. What I would like to appeal to parents to do is to know your children. Know who their friends are. Because a lot of the issues that we are facing at Elmore Stoutt High School has to do with bad influence. Children coming from good homes, good parenting, but when they get there, making bad choices. hooking up with the wrong types of friends that are leading them in a negative direction. Know who your friends, your children's friends are. Invite them over and get to know who their parents are, where they're from, what they're into. I want to talk a little bit about electronics. Those devices are messing up our children. We tend to buy whatever they want and give it to them and then not look back, not monitor. So many of our cases that we are dealing with right now has to do with cyberbullying, which is new. Barely any laws protecting that type of thing. It's all novel. And so you have to be very careful. Children are out there and they are not taking the time to consider that when I create this situation, I can't take it back. You know, they're posting pictures, destroying a person's reputation, and I mean it's destroying the reputation for life. We need parents to be involved, to every now and again take that phone and go on their Facebook page. Now that's another issue. I can tell you what I feel about having a Facebook page as a teenager, but I'm not going to tell parents how to raise their children. If they do, need to go on their page, see what's on there. Like the young man that passed, and I don't want to talk too much about that because that's a sensitive issue, but we need to know what is happening with our children. We need to understand that they are going through things that we in our generation did not experience, and even if we did, times were different. One of the things that I believe in my heart is that growing up we were more, not that I'm saying our society is not religious, but we were more made as young people, whether we liked it or not, to go to church. We had no choice. I remember my mother waking me up even if we went out the night before, and she would purposefully come and wake you up the next day. You all went, oh, that's fine, but you're going to church today. And so we used to be upset about that, but now as an adult you can look back and see how that foundation was so important and significant. There was a reason, and now you can look back and say, I understand why my mother did that, because had she not, I would not have been who I am today. And so I believe that we need to go back to the roots, how we were brought up, and raise our children. Raise our children. Don't be afraid for your child not to like you. There's so many times I remember not liking my mother. She's going to kill me for this. I hope she doesn't see this interview.
She soon will.
You know, you didn't understand. You know what they were trying to do. You had times when I want to move out of this house. But it's not about that. You do what you have to do, tough love, and your children will respect you and love you for it in the end. And so I believe parents have, they play a vital role, and they have a lot that they can do for us in making those connections with their children. And some of them do an outstanding job. You can tell they do an outstanding job. But there's so many that I believe we need help in just helping one another as a community. Where you see a child going astray, let us come together. Let us see what we can do to provide support for that parent. It might be a single parent, a younger parent, but we need to understand the importance of parenting. It's not about being friends. Everybody wants to be friends, yes, with your children, but that tough love is what's required. And I believe that's what's missing from just the whole parenting aspect. So, you know, I would like to see parents not be afraid to raise their children, not be afraid to discipline. You have children being dropped off, for example, in the morning to school, boys, shirts outside. Your parents saw you, they said nothing, but then we as a school are expected to now enforce and say, put your shirt in your pants. How can we expect them to listen to us when it didn't start from home? My mother didn't tell me nothing about my shirt, so why should I listen to you? It's a collaborative effort. So there's so many things, little things, that parents can do that can make a big difference. Check your children's bags, know what's inside them when they're coming to school. The other day we had a young lady that had a big knife, a butcher knife, and it belonged to the parent. When the investigation was concluded, we found out that it was in fact a knife taken from home. So, you know, you have to know, don't assume that because they're smiling every day and they look okay, that they are okay. These children are going through a lot. A lot is happening, and the only way we can stay on top is by being involved. And that's a powerful way to assist us as a school, by being involved in your child's life.
Those are some powerful words to the parents. Ways indeed that all parents can help
Yes.
improve the connection with their children and help to build on what's happening at the Elmore Stoutt High School. Branching out from the parents, the community, how can they support what's being done at the school?
So many ways. Another initiative that we are working on is something called Adopt a Department initiative, where because of the size of our school, we know that primary schools, they have connections with businesses. They're partnered.
Yeah, the Adopt a School.
Adopt a School. So we recognize that because of the size of Elmore Stoutt High School, it would be impossible to do Adopt a School. So what we've done is we've broken it down, into departments. We want to see a business partner with a department. Maybe you have like interests. So for example, like our technical department, a good business that they can partner with, in my mind, would be the moorings. Again, we are not asking for money. What we would like to see is services, just supporting resources, whatever you can do to help us. So what we are going to be looking to involve our PTA in helping us to achieve is this initiative where every department, the business department, music department, technical department, are partnered with a business who is willing to share some of those responsibilities as far as resources and services. For example, I mentioned technical. They need periodic servicing of their tools and equipment. So, if you're partnered with the right business, they can come in and provide that service free of charge. So things like that, adopting a department initiative, I see the wider community playing a vital role. Also churches. We have had very good support from churches. We have programs in place like the MAIL program, which comes under the New Life Baptist Church MAIL ministry. And that has been working. So with some of our troubled children, we have assigned them to the MAIL program. And the MAIL program is really to sort of speak to our boys about the importance of values and how to incorporate those values and morals into their daily lives. We would like to see more of that from the community, where more churches and organizations reach out and say, look, this is how we can help. Just recently, I received a letter, very, very excited about it, from, believe it or not, Showtime Band. And you hear Showtime Band and you would think, okay, it's a band and what can they do? But they actually reached out to us to help us in like initiatives like the MAIL program, where they want to partner with the school and provide mentorship and just basically wherever we need them to assist us in sort of changing the culture and the climate of the school. So wherever we have troubled kids, we would partner with them. They have their own internal organization and they want to be able to provide help to not just Elmore Stoutt, but to the schools in the territory. So we're looking to, again, utilize our PTA to run ahead with that initiative with Showtime and get that started as soon as possible. So, so many ways the community can help, and it's not about money. Services, how can we provide a service, strategies. We had the road track under the leadership of Henry Cricky that came to the school in September, and they did an outstanding forum in the multipurpose sports complex, where they brought a motivational speaker from the United States to speak to our lower schools, 7, 8, and 9 graders, about conflict resolution. And that went very well. But it has to be systematic and it has to be ongoing and consistent. And so we're looking to the community for that kind of help. How can you assist us, provide us with information, resources, take some of our students and talks, conflict resolution, just those types of things. So it's not always about money. How can I provide a service to my community, in particular the Elmore Stoutt High School?
I'm so pleased to hear of all these connections and networking that's happening here with regards to the Elmore Stoutt High School and persons wanting to be involved in the transformation, because it's all a transformation that's happening.
Yes, we had a lot of people from the community, who've just reached out. I must say, very eerily, I would have a thought in my mind, and before the week is out and I'm able to actually act on that thought, someone from the community would call or write a letter answering that same addressing that same issue. You know, we have people from the community right now that want to provide lunch free of charge for students who may not have the monies to buy lunch. And, you know, they come forward every day. I was surprised to hear from Showtime Band, but that is what we need, because remember, bands like Showtime have an influence on our young people. So why not use that influence to do something positive? That's how the community can help us. Not just the Showtime Band, but any other of those types of bands. Those are the type of things that our young people identify with. So come forward and see how you can influence them in a positive way. And those are the type of things that we embrace and we want to see more of from our community.
In closing today's interview, you spoke about all the changes that are taking place, the transformation that's happening at the Elmore Stoutt High School. What would your final words be with regard to the leadership, the direction, and the change that is to come from that institution?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about leadership because I believe we talked about this in my last interview, that leadership is, if I had to use a synonym, it would be influence. And we know we had leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, who was not necessarily a positive influence, and we can debate that all we want. But influence, and we have to be very careful about the word influence, because influence has to be at this level, at this institution, it has to be positive. I am a work in progress. I don't pretend to know it all, but I'll tell anyone that this position, I don't take it lightly. It is very humbling. Humbling in that I believe with every fiber of my being that human connection is at the root of my success. Making connections with students, teachers, staff, and the wider community is at the root of my success. I believe that if I am successful in doing that, being transparent and having the community understand that everything about my leadership is about love. Love for my community, love for my fellow man, and wanting to see the country do well, that people will understand and support. And it's not me that you're supporting. It's the movement of transforming the Elmore Stoutt High School. That is the message I would like to leave, that I am being used to facilitate a movement. And when I say I'm being used, I can't help but recognize the Almighty God, because that is who I believe I'm being used by. Here for a purpose and a reason. I don't take it lightly. And I cannot do it alone. It has to come with the help of the wider community, parent support. Every stakeholder has a vested interest in the success of this institution. Don't make it about me. Make it about your country. If you love your country, if you love your community, if you love your young people, you would understand that this is everybody's job. And it is absolutely necessary. It is not an option for us to work collaboratively to see this institution a success.
Mrs. Underhill, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, for sharing your vision, your passion, the direction, the transformation, and the movement that's taking place at the Elmore Stoutt High School, and for giving us a glimpse into what happens there, the challenges, the successes, everything that makes the school what it is. And I look forward to great things coming from the school. I wish you much success. I'm glad that fear will not cripple you. You will move forward. You will be the change that needs to happen to transform the school. And I wish you much success, God's blessings, and prosperity in all that you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you and with the wider community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me for another GIS report. Today, we concluded our two-part feature with the acting principal of the Elmore Stoutt High School, Mrs. Sandy Underhill, and learned more of the transformation taking place at that institution. We heard of the leadership, direction, partnerships, and the movement taking place at the institution as it repositions itself to deliver excellence. Once again, I'd like to thank Mrs. Underhill for so ably sharing with us her vision and direction for the school. And I'd also like to thank you, the audience, for joining me once again for another GIS report. For the Ministry of Education and Culture and the Department of Information and Public Relations, I am your host, Information Officer, Colleen Penn.